Neria's POV. The rain had not stopped for 3 days. It drummed against the slate roofs of Drumak village like the fingers of the dead, relentless and cold. The elders said it was an omen. They always said that when something went wrong, when the harvest failed, when a child was stillborn. When I was born, I stood in the center of the village square, barefoot on the wet stone, my wrists bound with iron chains blessed by the moon priestess. The metal burned against my skin, not because it was silver, but because it had been soaked in sacred water meant to purify the cursed. I was the cursed. Around me, the entire pack had gathered. Mothers held their children close. Warriors stood with arms crossed, their eyes hard and unforgiving. And at the front, draped in white furs and ceremonial beads, stood my mother, Luna Marin of the Drumach pack. She did not look at me. Neriah, Elder Cormag's voice cut through the rain like a blade. He was ancient, his face a map of wrinkles and scars, his wolf long since faded into legend. You were born without a wolf. You are 22 years old, and still, the goddess has not blessed you. You are a void, a wound in the fabric of our people. I said nothing. What could I say? He was right. I had no wolf, no shift, no connection to the moon. I was human in a world that worshipped the beast. The forest has demanded tribute, Cormag continued, his staff striking the ground with each word. For 5 generations we have fed it, a life for a life, a soul for peace. And you, Neriah, wolfless, motherless in spirit, are the perfect offering. Motherless in spirit. The words should have hurt more than they did, but I had long since learned that my mother's love was conditional. It required a wolf. It required worth. I had neither. Before we begin this journey into one of Scotland's darkest and most emotional stories of fate and rebirth, I need to ask you something. Where are you watching from? Drop your location in the comments. And if this is your first time on our channel, subscribe now, because what you're about to hear is a story that legends tried to hide, but memory refused to forget. My mother finally stepped forward. She wore her Luna crown, a circlet of iron and moonstone that caught the dim light like frozen tears. Her face was a mask, beautiful, cold, untouchable. Neriah, she said softly, and for a moment, just a moment, I thought I saw something flicker in her eyes. Regret, sorrow, but then it was gone. You were born under a dark moon, she continued, her voice carrying across the square. The midwife said you did not cry. The goddess did not mark you. And her voice broke, just slightly. I tried. I prayed. I waited. But you are empty. Empty. The words settled into my chest like a stone. The beast of Calder Forest has waited long enough, she said. It is time. 2 warriors stepped forward, Rowan and Fergus, both sons of the Beta. They gripped my arms, their hands like vices, and began to drag me toward the forest edge. I did not fight. What was the point? The villagers parted like water, their faces a blur of pity and fear. Some whispered prayers. Others spat at my feet. Cursed girl. The goddess rejected her. Better her than one of ours. The forest loomed ahead, ancient and black, its trees so tall they seemed to pierce the sky. No one went into Calder Forest, not unless they were desperate, not unless they were damned. The rain grew heavier as we crossed the boundary. The moment we stepped beneath the canopy, the world changed. The air became thick, electric. The wolves inside Rowan and Fergus whimpered, and I felt their hands tremble. This is far enough, Rowan muttered, his voice tight. They shoved me forward, and I stumbled, my knees hitting the moss-covered ground. The chains bit into my wrists. Fergus leaned down, his face pale. May the goddess forgive us. Then they ran. I listened to their footsteps fade, swallowed by the forest, and then there was only silence, and the rain. I pushed myself to my knees, then to my feet. The trees around me were massive, their trunks wider than houses, their roots twisted and gnarled like the bones of giants. Mist curled along the ground, thick and white, and somewhere in the distance, I heard the low, mournful cry of something that was not quite wolf and not quite human, the beast. Everyone knew the stories. A creature older than the packs, a monster that had once been a wolf, but had been cursed by the goddess herself for some unspeakable crime. It lived in the heart of Calder Forest, and it demanded tribute, a life every 20 years. I was the 23rd offering in 500 years. I wondered how many of them had been like me, broken, discarded, unloved. I walked deeper into the forest. I don't know how long I walked. Time felt strange here, as if the forest existed outside of it. The rain stopped. but the mist remained, thick and clinging. My dress, a plain white shift meant for sacrifices, was soaked through, and my feet were numb. Then I saw it, a clearing. At its center stood a stone altar, ancient and covered in moss and runes I did not recognize. Around it, bones, hundreds of them, skulls of wolves, stags, ravens, and at the far edge, half hidden in shadow, was a structure, a throne, carved from a single massive tree, its roots twisted into the shape of claws, its back crowned with antlers and iron. And sitting on that throne was him, the beast. He was enormous. Even seated, he towered over me, his body wrapped in furs and shadow. His hair was long and black, falling past his shoulders, and his eyes, oh gods, his eyes. They were not the eyes of a monster. They were gold, molten, ancient, and they were locked on me. He did not move, did not speak. He simply stared, and I felt the weight of his gaze like a hand around my throat. I should have been afraid. I should have run, but I was so tired. "I'm the offering," I said quietly, my voice barely more than a whisper. "They sent me to die." Still, he said nothing. I took a step forward, then another. "I don't have a wolf," I continued, my voice breaking. "I'm nobody. I'm nothing. So if you're going to kill me..." I met his eyes, and something inside me cracked. "Please, just make it quick." For a long moment, there was only silence. Then, slowly, impossibly, the beast rose. He moved like liquid shadow, his body unfolding from the throne, and I realized with a cold shock that he was not just large, he was otherworldly. His presence filled the clearing, suffocating and absolute. He took one step toward me, then another, and then he fell to his knees. What could make an ancient beast kneel before a wolfless girl? Valen's POV. I had lived for 800 years. I had seen empires rise and fall. I had watched the forests grow from saplings to gods. I had felt the goddess's blessing and her curse in equal measure, but I had never felt anything like this. The girl stood before me, trembling and small, her wrists bound in iron, her white dress clinging to her like a shroud. She was nothing, a wolfless outcast, a sacrifice, and she was everything. The bond hit me like a lightning strike, sudden, violent, undeniable. It roared through my chest, a golden thread pulling taut, connecting me to her in a way that was absolute and irreversible. Mate. No, impossible. I had not felt the bond in centuries. I thought the goddess had taken it from me when she cursed me, when she twisted my wolf into something monstrous and bound me to this forest as penance for my sins. But here she was, my mate, delivered to me in chains. I fell to my knees before I realized what I was doing. The movement was instinctive, primal. My wolf, silent for so long, howled in recognition, in desperate, aching need. She stared at me, her eyes wide, blue as the highland sky before a storm. "What are you doing?" she whispered. I could not answer. My throat was tight, my chest burning. I reached out with one hand, and she flinched, but I did not touch her. I stopped just short, my fingers hovering near her bound wrists. "You should not be here," I said, and my voice was rough, unused to speech. "They should not have sent you." "They had no choice," she said quietly. "I'm cursed." "No." The word came out harder than I intended. "You are not," she laughed, a broken, bitter sound. "I don't have a wolf. I'm 22, and the goddess never gave me one. If that's not a curse, I don't know what is." I looked at her, truly looked at her, and I saw it. The wound, the way she held herself, as if expecting the world to strike her down at any moment. The way her hands trembled, the way her eyes held no hope. They had broken her, her own pack, her own mother. Rage, hot and ancient, surged through me. "What is your name?" I asked. She hesitated. "Naraya, Naraya." I repeated it in my mind, the syllables soft and sacred. "I am Valen," I said, "and you are not a sacrifice, Naraya. Not anymore." Naraya's POV. He broke the chains. With one hand, just one, he snapped the iron like it was made of air. The metal fell to the ground with a dull clang, and I gasped, stumbling back. He did not pursue me. He simply remained on his knees, watching me with those impossible golden eyes. "You're the beast," I breathed. "I am," he said. "You're supposed to kill me." "I will not." "Why?" The question hung between us, fragile and enormous. He looked away, his jaw tight. Because you are mine to protect, not to harm. I did not understand. None of this made sense. He was a monster, a creature of legend. And yet, he had knelt, for me. I don't understand, I whispered. You will, he said quietly. In time. He rose then, fluid and terrifying, and I took another step back. He noticed, and something like pain flickered across his face. I will not hurt you, Naraya, he said, but I cannot let you return to Drumak. They will kill you. They already did, I said bitterly. They just sent you to finish the job. His expression darkened. Then they are fools. He turned, his furs sweeping the ground, and gestured toward the forest. Come, you need warmth, food, rest. I hesitated. Every instinct screamed at me to run, but where would I go? Back to the village that had condemned me, into the forest alone. At least here, I had a chance. I followed him. In the beast's domain, Naraya will discover that monsters are not always what they seem, and sometimes the cruelest creatures wear crowns. Naraya's POV. Valen's home was not a cave. It was a fortress, carved into the heart of an ancient oak so large it could have housed an entire pack. The structure was both beautiful and haunting. The walls were living wood, their surfaces smooth and dark, glowing faintly with runes that pulsed like a heartbeat. Furs covered the floors. A fire burned in a stone hearth that looked older than the mountains. It was warm. I had not been warm in so long. Valen moved through the space with quiet efficiency, setting an iron pot over the fire, pulling down dried herbs and meat from shelves carved into the walls. He did not speak, and neither did I. I sat near the fire, my knees pulled to my chest, and watched him. He was terrifying, but he was also careful. The way he moved, the way he checked the temperature of the water before pouring it into a cup and handing it to me. It was gentle, deliberate. Drink, he said. I took the cup. It was warm, the liquid inside herbal and sweet. I drank, and the tension in my body began to ease. Why did my mother do it? I asked suddenly. Valen stilled. He did not turn. Why did she send me here? My voice cracked. I'm her daughter. How could she? Fear, Valen said quietly. Fear makes people cruel. I wasn't dangerous, I whispered. I didn't do anything wrong. You did not need to. He finally turned, his golden eyes meeting mine. You existed. That was enough. The words struck something deep inside me, and before I could stop it, the tears came. I cried. For the first time since the chains had been placed on my wrists, I let myself break. And Valen, this monster, this beast, simply knelt beside me and waited. In the forest, truths will surface. In the village, a Luna will begin to unravel. Naraya's POV. I woke to silver light. For a moment I thought I was still in Drumak, in my small room beneath the healer's quarters where I had been kept like a secret. But then, I felt the warmth of furs beneath me, smelled the ancient wood and earth, and remembered. I was in the forest, with the beast, with Valen. I sat up slowly, my body aching. The fire had burned low, embers glowing like tiny suns. Valen was gone, but I could feel him nearby, a presence just beyond the walls, vast and watchful. I wrapped one of the furs around my shoulders and stepped outside. The forest was transformed. Moonlight poured through the canopy in shafts of silver, illuminating the mist that curled along the ground like living breath. Everything glowed. The trees, the moss, the very air itself seemed touched by something divine. And there, standing in the center of the clearing, was Valen. He was not in his human form. His wolf was massive, larger than any I had ever seen, even in paintings of the ancient alphas. His fur was black as midnight, and his eyes burned gold. He stood perfectly still, his head tilted toward the sky, and I realized he was listening. To what? I did not know. Valen, I whispered. His head turned, those golden eyes locking onto me, and then he shifted. The transformation was seamless, beautiful in a way that made my chest ache. One moment wolf, the next, man. He stood before me, bare-chested, his hair falling around his face, and I forced myself to look away. You should be resting, he said quietly. I couldn't sleep. I hesitated. What were you listening to? He was silent for a long moment. Then, her, the goddess. I stared at him. The moon goddess speaks to you? She used to. His voice was heavy with something I could not name. Before the curse. What did you do? The question escaped before I could stop it. To be cursed like this? Valen's jaw tightened. He looked away, toward the forest, and I thought he would not answer. But then he did. I refused her command. Valen's POV. I had not spoken of it in 800 years, but she deserved to know. This girl, this mate, who had been sent to me in chains, who had been broken by her own blood. She deserved the truth. I was Alpha of the Strath Pack, I said quietly. The largest in the Highlands. We were powerful, blessed. The goddess favored us above all others. Naraya listened, her blue eyes wide in the moonlight. But power breeds arrogance, I continued. And I was arrogant. When the goddess commanded me to unite the packs, to bring peace through marriage to a rival Luna, I refused. Why? Because I did not love her. The words tasted like ash. And I believed love was sacred, that the bond was sacred. I thought the goddess would understand. She didn't. No. I looked down at my hands. These hands that had once commanded armies, that had torn apart enemies, that had built a legacy now lost to time. She cursed me, bound me to this forest, twisted my wolf into something monstrous so that no pack would ever accept me again. And she took my bond. Your bond? The ability to feel my mate. I met her eyes, or so I thought. The air between us shifted, charged with something unspoken. But you feel it now, Naraya whispered. Don't you? I said nothing, but the truth was written in every line of my body. She took a step back, her hand pressed to her chest. That's why you knelt. That's why you... She shook her head. No, that's impossible. I don't have a wolf. I can't be anyone's mate. You are mine, I said, and the words came out rough, absolute. Wolf or not, the bond does not lie. But I'm perfect, I interrupted. You are perfect, Naraya, and the fact that your pack could not see it is their failing, not yours. She stared at me, and I saw the war in her eyes, the desire to believe me, and the lifetime of rejection that told her it was impossible. Before either of us could speak again, the forest shifted, the air turned cold, and a voice, ancient, feminine, terrible in its beauty, echoed through the clearing. Valen, bring her to me. Naraya gasped, stumbling back. What was that? I knew that voice. I had not heard it in 8 centuries. The goddess, I breathed. She wants to see you. Naraya's POV. The world dissolved into light. One moment I was standing in Valen's clearing. The next I was falling. No, floating. Through silver and stars. I tried to scream, but there was no air, no sound. Only the sensation of being unmade and remade in the same breath. Then I landed. Not on ground, but on something solid and soft, like moss made of moonlight. I looked up. I was no longer in the forest. I was somewhere else, somewhere that felt like the space between dreaming and waking, between life and death. The sky above was not sky, but a vast tapestry of stars, shifting and swirling like a living thing. And before me, rising from the luminous ground, was a throne. It was carved from a single beam of moonlight made solid, its surface rippling like water, and sitting upon it was a woman. No, not a woman, a goddess. She was beautiful in a way that hurt to look at, ageless and ancient all at once, her skin luminous, her hair a cascade of silver that moved as if under water. Her eyes were white, depthless, and when they turned to me, I felt the weight of eternity. Naraya, she said, and her voice was the sound of every prayer ever spoken. Daughter of the forgotten line, you have been brought before me. I could not speak, could not breathe. Do you know what you are? The goddess asked. I shook my head. She rose from her throne, and as she moved, the stars moved with her, orbiting her like she was the center of all things. Your mother called you cursed, she said softly. Your pack called you broken, but they were wrong, child. You are not without a wolf. My heart stopped. You are without a wolf because you were never meant to have one. I don't understand, I whispered. The goddess stepped closer, and I saw something in her expression, something almost like sorrow. 800 years ago there was a bloodline blessed above all others, the Moira line, daughters of the first Luna, touched by my hand, given the gift of insight and power beyond mortal wolves. They were my oracles, my vessels. She paused, but they were hunted, feared. The packs turned on them, and one by one the Moira line was extinguished, or so the world believed. I felt something crack open inside me. Your mother descends from that line, Naraya, and so do you. But I don't have power, I said desperately. I can't shift. I can't, because your power was dormant, the goddess interrupted, locked away to protect you, to hide you, until the moment you were ready. She reached out, and her fingers brushed my forehead. Light exploded through me. I saw everything. My mother as a child, hiding her gifts, burying them deep to survive. My grandmother before her, doing the same. Generations of women swallowing their power, their truth to avoid persecution. And then I saw myself, not as I was, but as I could be. Silver light poured from my hands. My eyes glowed white. Around me, wolves bowed, not in fear, but in reverence. I was not broken. I was awake. "You are the last of the Moira line," the goddess said, "and you are my oracle." "Why?" My voice broke. "Why now? Why me?" "Because Valen has waited long enough," she said softly. "Because you were meant to heal him. And because the packs have forgotten what it means to serve the moon, not their own pride." She stepped back, her form beginning to fade. "Return to the forest, Neriah. Claim your wolf, claim your mate. And when the time comes, return to your pack and show them what they threw away." The light began to pull me back, and I reached out, desperate. "Wait, what do I do? How do I—" "Trust the bond," the goddess whispered. "It will never fail you." And then I was falling again, through stars and silver until I crashed back into my body. Valen's POV. She collapsed into my arms. I caught her before she hit the ground, her body limp, her skin cold. Panic, sharp and unfamiliar, tore through me. "Neriah," I said urgently, lowering her gently to the moss. "Neriah, stay with me." Her eyes fluttered open, and they were different. They glowed, faintly, but unmistakably. Silver light flickered in her irises. "Valen," she whispered, and her voice was layered, resonant, as if the goddess herself still lingered in her throat. "What did she do to you?" I demanded. "She woke me up," Neriah breathed. "She told me the truth." "What truth?" She sat up slowly, her hand pressed to her chest, and I felt it. Through the bond I felt the shift. Power, raw and ancient, stirring beneath her skin. "I'm not cursed," she said, and tears streamed down her face. "I never was." I pulled her into my arms, and she clung to me, shaking. "I know," I murmured against her hair. "I always knew. The oracle has awakened. But in Drumach, a mother's guilt begins to consume her, and the pack will soon learn what they have unleashed." Luna Marin's POV. I had not slept since the offering. 3 days, 3 nights, and every time I closed my eyes, I saw her, Neriah, standing in the rain, her wrists bound, her eyes empty, my daughter. I told myself it was necessary, that the pack came first, that a Luna must make impossible choices. But the bond between mother and child, the one that even wolves cannot sever, it screamed. I stood at the window of the Alpha's chambers, staring out at Calder Forest. The trees were dark, impenetrable, silent. She was gone, and I had sent her there. "Marin," I turned. My mate, Alpha Dougal, stood in the doorway, his expression hard. "The elders are asking questions," he said. "About Neriah." "What questions?" My voice was sharper than I intended. "Whether she was truly the right choice." He crossed his arms. "Whether we should have sent someone else." Rage flared in my chest. "There was no one else. She was wolfless. She was—" "Your daughter," Dougal interrupted. The words hung between us like a blade. "She was a burden," I said coldly. "A weakness. She was a child. She was 22 years old," I snapped. "And she had nothing. No wolf, no future, no place in this pack." Dougal stared at me, and I saw something in his eyes I had never seen before. Disgust. "You've become what you always feared," he said quietly. "Cruel." He turned and left, and I was alone. That night I dreamed. I was in the forest, standing before the altar, and Neriah was there, but she was not the girl I had sent to die. She was glowing. Silver light poured from her skin, her eyes twin moons, and around her, wolves knelt, hundreds of them, thousands, their heads bowed in submission. And behind her stood the beast, but he was not a beast. He was an alpha, ancient, powerful, absolute. And when Neriah turned to look at me, her voice was not her own. "You cast me out, mother, but the goddess has called me home." I woke gasping, drenched in sweat, and I knew, deep in my bones, that I had made a terrible mistake. Neriah's POV. It took 7 days for my wolf to emerge, 7 days of pain, of fire beneath my skin, of Valen's voice guiding me through the agony. "Breathe. Trust your body. Let her come." And then, on the 7th night, beneath a blood moon, I shifted. She was not like other wolves. She was silver, pure, gleaming silver, her eyes white as starlight, her presence overwhelming. I felt her power, felt the way the forest itself seemed to bow when she stepped forward. "Oracle," she whispered in my mind. "We are Oracle." I stood on 4 legs, my senses exploding into clarity. I could hear the heartbeat of every creature within miles. I could taste the magic in the air. I could feel the bond, golden and burning, connecting me to Valen. He stood at the edge of the clearing in his wolf form, massive and black, and when our eyes met, the bond snapped into place completely. "Mate," his wolf rumbled. "Ours. Ours," my wolf agreed. Valen's POV. She was magnificent. I had seen thousands of wolves in my lifetime. Alphas, lunas, warriors, ancients, but none of them compared to her. She was divine. The goddess's mark was all over her, in the silver of her fur, the light in her eyes, the way the earth seemed to hum beneath her paws. She was mine, and I would burn the world before I let anyone take her from me again. "Are you ready?" I asked through the bond. She turned her head, her white eyes meeting mine. "Ready for what?" "To go home." Her wolf stilled. "Drumach?" "Yes. They need to see what they lost, and they need to answer for what they did to you." For a moment she hesitated. Then her wolf lowered her head, and I felt her resolve harden. "Let's go." We ran. Through the forest, across the highland moors, over rivers and stone, 2 wolves moving as one, bound by a thread of gold that could not be severed. When we reached the border of Drumach territory, I felt her fear spike. "I'm here," I said. "I won't leave you." She pressed against my side, and together we crossed into the village. The pack was gathered in the square, some evening gathering, laughter and firelight. It stopped the moment we appeared. Silence fell like a guillotine. Naraya shifted first, her body glowing as she took her human form, now wrapped in a silver cloak that seemed woven from moonlight itself, and then I shifted beside her. Gasps, whispers, fear. "The beast. He's come for us. Run. Stop." Naraya's voice rang out, clear and commanding, and every wolf froze. She stepped forward, her head high, her eyes glowing faintly silver. "I am Naraya," she said, "daughter of Luna Marin, the one you sent to die." At the front of the crowd I saw her. The Luna. Marin's face was white as bone. "But I did not die," Naraya continued. "I awakened, and the goddess has sent me back." She raised one hand, and silver light poured from her palm. The pack fell to their knees. "The oracle has returned. Now comes the reckoning." Valen's POV. I had expected violence. I had expected the pack to fight, to reject her, to force me to defend her with tooth and claw. But they knelt, not out of love, out of fear, and that was not enough. Naraya stood in the center of the square, silver light still glowing faintly around her, and I saw the tension in her shoulders, the way her hands trembled. She was strong, but she was also breaking. "Where is my mother?" Naraya asked, her voice steady. The crowd parted, and Luna Marin stepped forward. She looked smaller than I remembered, fragile. Her crown sat crooked on her head, and her eyes were hollow. "Naraya," she whispered. "Luna Marin," Naraya corrected coldly. Marin flinched as if struck. "You sent me to die," Naraya said. "You bound me in chains. You told the pack I was cursed. You told me I was nothing. Marin's voice broke. You thought wrong." Naraya's eyes blazed. "I am the last of the Moira line. I am the moon goddess's oracle, and you threw me away." Marin fell to her knees, tears streaming down her face. "I'm sorry. I'm so sorry." "Sorry doesn't bring back the years I spent hating myself," Naraya said quietly. "Sorry doesn't erase the scars." I stepped forward, placing myself at Naraya's side. The pack recoiled. "I am Valen," I said, my voice carrying across the square. "Once alpha of the Strath Pack, cursed by the goddess, bound to the forest for 800 years. Silence. "But the curse is broken," I continued, "because she," I gestured to Naraya, "is my mate, and she has been chosen by the goddess to restore what was lost." "You're the beast," someone whispered. "I was," I said, "but no longer." Naraya turned to me, and through the bond, I felt her question. "What do we do now?" "We give them a choice," I answered. "Change or fall." Naraya's POV. I looked at the pack, at the faces I had known all my life, faces that had ignored me, pitied me, hated me, and I felt nothing. No rage, no need for revenge, just exhaustion. I could destroy this pack, I said quietly. The goddess has given me the power to do it, but I won't. I stepped closer to my mother, who still knelt, sobbing. Because I am not you, I said. I will not throw away what is broken. I will heal it. I turned to the pack. Drumak will change, I said. No more sacrifices. No more casting out the wolfless or the weak. You will honor the goddess's will, not your fear. And if we refuse? Elder Cormag's voice was thin, defiant. Valen growled, low and dangerous. Then you will answer to me, he said. Cormag's face went pale. I didn't think so, I said. This pack will be reformed, and I will ensure it. I looked at my mother one last time. You are Luna no longer, I said. Step down. Marin's eyes widened. Naraya, please. Step down. She bowed her head, and I felt the power shift. The pack's bond, the invisible thread that connected Luna to her people, snapped toward me. I was Luna now, not by birth, by right. Neria's POV. 2 months later, Drumak had changed. It was slow, difficult work. Centuries of tradition did not dissolve overnight. But with Valen at my side and the goddess's mark upon me, the pack had no choice but to listen. We abolished the sacrifices. We opened the borders to lone wolves and outcasts. We built a new code, one based on compassion, not fear. And my mother? She lived in a small cottage at the edge of the village now. No crown, no title, just Marin. I visited her sometimes. Not out of obligation, out of choice. You've done well, she said one afternoon as we sat by her fire. Her hands were folded in her lap, and she looked older now, worn. I had good teachers, I said. Eventually. She smiled sadly. I was not one of them. No, I agreed. You weren't. Silence settled between us. I don't expect forgiveness, Marin said quietly. I know what I did. I know what I am. I looked at her, this woman who had given me life, and then tried to take it away. And I felt pity. I don't forgive you, I said honestly. Not yet. Maybe not ever. But I won't hate you either. That's not who I want to be. Marin's eyes filled with tears. You're better than me. I know, I said softly. I stood to leave, and she reached out, her hand hovering near mine. Naraya, she whispered. Thank you for not destroying us. I looked down at her. I didn't do it for you, I said. I did it for me, and I left. Valen's POV. She found me in the forest, at the edge of Calder, where the ancient trees still whispered. How did it go? I asked. As expected, she said, leaning into me. I wrapped my arms around her and she sighed, the tension leaving her body. Do you regret it? I asked, showing mercy. No, she said. Revenge would have been easy. She gestured toward the village. This is harder, but it's right. I pressed a kiss to her hair. You are extraordinary, Naraya. She laughed softly. You're biased. I am, I agreed. And I have no intention of changing. We stood there, wrapped in each other, as the moon rose over the highlands. The curse was broken. The oracle had risen, and the beast had found his queen. Naraya's POV. 1 year later, they called me the moon's daughter now. Not Luna, not oracle, just hers. And I was. The goddess spoke to me often, in dreams, in the rustle of leaves, in the pull of the tide. She guided me as I rebuilt Drumak, as I trained the young wolves, as I learned to wield the power that had always been mine. And Valen, he was my constant, my anchor, my home. We had completed the mating bond 6 months ago, beneath a full moon, with the entire pack as witness. It was the first time in 800 years that Valen had stood before wolves as an alpha, not a monster, and they had bowed, not out of fear, out of respect. Now, I stood on the cliff overlooking Calder Forest, my hand resting on the slight swell of my belly. I was not showing yet, but I knew. We both knew. Valen appeared beside me, his arm sliding around my waist. Are you ready to tell them? He asked. I smiled. Not yet. Let's keep this between us a little longer. He pulled me close, and I felt his wolf purr through the bond. Our pup, he murmured. Our future, our miracle, I agreed. I looked out over the forest, over the land that had tried to kill me, and instead had saved me, and I thought about the girl I used to be. Broken, wolfless, unloved. She was gone now. In her place stood the oracle, the Luna, the moon's daughter, and she was enough. I love you, I whispered. Valen turned me to face him, his golden eyes warm. And I love you, he said. For 800 years I waited, and you were worth every moment. He kissed me, and the bond flared between us. gold and silver, intertwined, unbreakable. The beast had knelt, the oracle had risen, and together we would build a world where no one would ever be cast out again. 20 years later, the daughter of Naraya and Valen would stand before the moon goddess and receive her own blessing, and the Moira line, thought lost to history, would rise again. But that is another story. For now, in the highlands of Scotland, beneath eternal moonlight, Aluna and her alpha ruled with mercy and strength, and the forest remembered.